story of Omar. 3 hidden worlds. Everybody lives in one of 3 worlds. You live in a child's world. You live in an adult world, or you live in the real world. The child's world is a world where all you want is what you want, when you want, right? You all have kids. Can I have? What's the answer to can I have?
No.
No. What's the result? I want it anyway. And they stamp their feet. They're children, right? If I can't have what I want when I want it, I'm going to make a fuss. I'm going to get what I want when I want it. Adult world. You provide the good things, right? And men, you've been known to provide the discipline. Once in a while, Mama gets a swat in too, right? You know what I mean by that. My mother had a saying. We also had a nice little, it was about this long with a handle on one end, flat. She called it the Board of Education. And she used to apply the Board of Education to the seat of knowledge. Liberally. And every time she did, I didn't sit down for a day or 2. Well, maybe not that long. She was hey, Mother was my world. Okay. She had to be, because Dad wasn't. And the real world, the facts that you don't want to know. I've told you a few things about myself today you could have lived without knowing, right? But because you know them, it means that they're now in your thinking. And you realize that when someone comes and says, send your child to my house, it's going to be safe, what do? You don't take everybody at their word, do you? But you're not there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have told me that most of the knowledge of marital things and growing up things comes from friends, which is the exact last place a kid should get any knowledge. But now you're sending your kids to school, right? Now, if your schools are like mine, and I was a teacher in a Christian school, just like you have your school here. I was principal and 7th and 8th grade teacher for almost 10 years. I could not keep the kids from talking amongst themselves. Every now and then a parent would call me up and say, my son came home using a word that, why don't you stop it? How do you stop it? How do you keep your kids from gaining education that you don't want them to have? The real world, the facts you don't want them to know. Did you hear about the guy, the father that went to his son? His son is now 12. And I don't know how you do it in your mosque, but in the Christian church it's, son, I need to talk to you about the facts of life. What am I really saying? I'm using a 3-letter word. He knows what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And the son looks up and says, yeah, Dad, what do you want to know? Mm-hmm. Like he's got more knowledge than you do? The trouble is, in the public schools, they do. Mm-hmm. Because they're taught from the 4th and 5th grade that gay is good. I asked the boy the other day, what do you think about the gay marriage issue? And he said, oh, I think I should be allowed to do it. Love is love. And I say, you shake your head because you're from a different generation. You were not trained from the 4th grade up that this is perfectly okay. The first book that I heard about in the public school was a book entitled Heather Has 2 Mommies. That was back in the 80s. Now it has progressed since then. How many would like to guess a number? Give me a number between... No, just give me a number. How many television programs, series, have prominently acceptable gay characters on television today?
I would say all of them.
How do you combat that when they come to mosque once a week and here anybody that does this is going to hell? When 139 sources are telling them this is perfectly okay, and by the way, those old people over there, they're from a different generation. Their book is not up to date. I listened to a video the other day of a man that said, you know, we have a new theology. Because the old theology, Paul didn't know about these things. These are things that nobody knew about these things. We've changed now. We've updated. We're more normal. You know, when it says, I'm the Lord your God and I change not, what does that mean about a new theology? It's not theology, it's garbage. Whoops. Hopefully somebody will hear that word. This new thing that they say is there is a lie. The Bible says you shall know the truth and the truth will make you free. I'll bet there's the same text in the Quran. If you know the truth will set you free. The truth is, you're not born that way. It's a developed tendency because of circumstances that you live through. Why do you think I came out with a perfect female score? I have been used as a perfect female for 10 years. Why wouldn't I? But you were born that way. No, I wasn't born that way. And God says He's going to redo. He's going to recreate. He's going to make you new. He's going to change you. He's going to lead you down the path of correctness, right? And everything will work out. But the people are out there saying, oh, you've got to accept us. And the biggest argument that they have for accepting them is, you're taking away our ability to be loved. Hello? I'm never going to have a family if you don't allow me to be loved the way I want to. Wait a minute. Man, family. Can that happen?
In America.
Huh?
In America.
In America? Oh, I see. No. Can you create one if you... woman creates what?
Nothing.
Confusion for their husband.
Right.
Okay? It doesn't happen. But they say, oh, we want a family. Fine, join the rest of the family. Can you have a family? But we don't think like you do. No, you've been taught not to. You might want to blame the teachers that taught you this garbage. Now, my story is kind of funny. I once went to a gay church to get straight. I wrote a book about it. It's called, Hey God, You're Doing It Backwards. Literally, left my wife, left my children, abandoned them completely. Flew to California because I read a book that said the Lord is my shepherd and He knows I'm gay. Woo! That was 1975. It was written by the first pastor of the first all-gay church in the United States. No, you sound like you're shocked about that.
And I was here in church for people.
Did you know it's right here in Houston?
No.
Oh, yes. You can look it up on the phone book. You can look up on the... There's only 300 different churches like that right now.
Yeah.
And now the mainline churches and some of the mainline mosques are beginning to say, we accept you as you are. The Episcopal Church that used to be the strong church of the world, right? Has openly homosexual priests that are women. Whoa. That goes against everything that church ever taught. And they just say, accept it. The Methodist Church. Good old Methodism, right? You don't know this history because you've never been taught this history. That's one of the oldest Protestant churches that fights against the Catholic Church. Openly gay accepting now. Openly affirming. You go get a counselor. And that counselor will tell you, I'm not going to try to change you. You become what you want to come. I will affirm you in whatever direction you want to go. It's not my job to make you go in a direction. It's your job to choose it. And where do they affirm them to? The highest AIDS rate in the world is amongst teenage boys from 14 to 24 years old. And it's the same thing for the girls. The teenagers are getting the diseases. And it's because the people of God, be you call him Allah or God or whatever you want, those people aren't standing up and saying, listen, enough is enough is enough. Now, when somebody sees this, again, I'm going to get flooded. I'm going to get harassed. The newest tactic.
That was my concern, that you might be getting calls and telephone calls and letters of harassment and
the last time they had
threats and things like that. Yeah.
Back when Proposition 8, this is a California law, stating that gay marriage was acceptable or something like that. I don't even know. All I know is my organization got 5,000 phone calls charged to our cell phone bills by people who knew how to manipulate the system and took our numbers and spun them on long-distance phone calls and ran up $5,000 worth of bills.
Wow.
Then they crashed our website. I know harassment. I have been bullhorned. You know what that means? I'm preaching, somebody's outside with a bullhorn calling me a liar.
Right.
I've had it, oranges, apples, bananas. I've been fruited. That's why they call me fruity. Anyway, one's got a sense of humor in there. He smiles so good. He really does.
Thank you.
The biggest problems that I had was taking my seminars to a church or a mosque or any place in public, because they will be picketed. They will cause a demonstration. Well, I believe in the principle of no publicity is bad publicity. As long as you're yelling at me, somebody's going to say, why are they yelling at him? He's not doing anything wrong. Right? But then again, you have the other side going to the opposite church saying, oh, these guys are all going to hell. Why are they picking on those poor guys? They're not doing anything wrong. No such thing as bad publicity. It works both ways, right? Okay, we have the child's world. All I want is approval. Boys need to be physically held and touched by their father, the arm around the shoulder. You're my son. You're going to be a good... Dad needs to drive that into the mind of the child. You are my son, and you are going to be a fine person, and you're going to make the family proud. Not, what do you mean you're one of those? You know, as soon as you're one of those, you start living like one of those. And it causes a problem, because those are getting sick more often than anybody else. Why would anybody want to go in a position that has the highest suicide rate, the highest depression rate, the most STDs of any organizational group in the world? Why would you want to go there? And then call it gay. Gay used to have a different meaning, didn't it? Happy.
Yeah.
They say, but we have no choice. I'm going to show them in a few minutes how they do. Next slide. This is the real beginning of this Omar story. Before you are three gentlemen. One is a murderer. One thinks he's a homosexual. One is a pornography addict. Which one is which? Any guesses? This is a fact.
The middle one is a gay one.
You think the middle one is a gay one?
And the right one, I think, is a murderer.
The right one is this one is a murderer.
And the other one is...
This one is the pornography.
Yes.
You're wrong. Try again?
Yeah, I would say that the green, the purple, the left one is interested in pornography. The middle one is a murderer, and the young kid is gay.
You're wrong.
Whoa.
All of them the same.
Yeah, they're all the three.
All of them.
Yeah.
You're wrong. My point. You can't tell by looking.
Yes.
To you and to me, that is three of the finest looking young men in a private school you will ever find. Right? There should not be a problem between them. They're just buddies.
Yes.
All three of them talk to me on Facebook every week. I took that picture about 6 years ago. Now the young one is graduated from high school. The one over here is getting married. The one over here thinks he's getting married, if she agrees. They're fine kids. But when I met them, they were one mixed up bunch. And it was so easy to work with them once you understand how. That they shifted immediately. The murderer was a boy that was beaten his entire life, almost daily. You beat it in, it comes out as what? Anger. He got mad at a kid at school, he took the kid's head and he was banging it into the pavement, and it took 4 teachers to pull him off because he was going to do it. Right? My Bible says, as you think in your heart, so you, if you think you're a murderer, what are you? If you had the chance, you'd do it. Right? The other one came to me and he said, I have no attraction to girls whatsoever. I hate them. I don't want them. They're just... yuck. I got to tell him the story of how when I was 16 years old, and I was a senior, or no, junior in high school, right? Junior in high school, I got to go to New York City. And my, quotes, girlfriend, you know, perfect liars put up perfect defenses. You had to have a girlfriend to be normal, right? In fact, the cure for gay used to be go get married. That's what they told you to do. That takes one miserable person and makes 2. Because the man can't do what the woman needs and the woman can't do what the man needs. Right? And then they have children because men can be manipulated enough that sooner or later there's going to be kids. And now you have a kid that has a dad that doesn't know what he is and a mom that doesn't know what she is, and you got mixed up kids. Go get married, it'll cure the world. No, grow up first. Then go get married. And it'll be normal. So I'm in New York City with my girlfriend. She takes me to the headquarters of one of the nicest gospel television productions, 227 West 46th Street. Prominent address. You know, 42nd Street, Times Square, 46th Street, just a block up the road. I mean, that's high-priced country down there. And we sat on the desk of this very prominent televangelist minister, and she reached over and she gave me the biggest kiss I had ever had in my life, and I vomited all over her. Because I couldn't do it. It would be like you kissing him, deep throat. Look at that. Did you see that? That's the most repulsive thing you ever heard in your life, isn't it? To me, it would have been normal. What are we dealing with here? We're dealing with minds that have been trained. Minds that believe what they think they are because they have been told they are that. It's time out for us to tell them the truth, right? If you're a male, if you look in the mirror and you're a male, guess what you're going to be your whole life? A male. You can't change that. Well, some guys try. It doesn't work. And they get cancer earlier, and it's a whole world. You don't even want to know about this world. I grew up in this world. Okay, pornography addict. You ready for this? This one.
Yeah. Wow.
He's too old to be there. I mean, he was too young to be the rest of them. But he had one of these. And he'd got pictures. And if you live where he lived, you could dial the right channel and get complete pictures of everything in living color. And when he was 8 years old or 9 years old, he was introduced to this, and by the time he's 13, and he's 14 there, guess what? He's had 5 years already of solid adult pornography. What is he going to be? How can he be anything else but addicted? And with addiction comes degree. First you see a simple picture, okay? Then the picture has to become more complicated. And then you have to remove more. Right? And by the time I got him, he was thoroughly addicted, and he was watching stuff that you would not believe. I know, because I saw his cell phone. Now, the way I met him was this. His pastor had a 3,000-member congregation. And his pastor went on the internet looking up this subject that we're dealing with and stumbled. Nobody ever stumbles across me on the internet. You know that? God leads them to me. That's why I have so many Muslim boys calling me. God leads them to the one place they can get the help they need. Found my name, called me up. He lives in Central America. He said, would you come down here and give us information to help save 5 boys? This pastor had 3,000 members, and he's worried about 5 little boys. And I said, when do you want me there? He said, as soon as you can get here. And I said, I'll be there in 2 weeks. Send me the money. That's the way I work. I never charge for service. I go, I speak. If you like what you hear, you make a donation, and I can go again. If you don't like what you hear, God will give me money somewhere else. I am a free will. I don't charge. Your question was, how much do I charge for counseling? My mentor. Did you know that every psychologist has to have a psychologist? Because they're all crazy. No, we have mentors, right? My mentor is trying to get me to charge money for my services because he says, you're going to starve to death. Yeah, right. Do I look like I've starved to death so far? My point is this. The kid was addicted. So, I went down and I stood up, and that 3,000-member church had a 600-student school. And I have on this computer all these pictures. I can show you this place and everything about it, right? Beautiful school. Gorgeous. And I got to stand up for the 250 kids in 7th grade and above. That's where you need to start educating. In fact, you may be late because the schools start in 4th grade now. Heather Has 2 Mummies is a kindergarten book. Right? You've heard about this. Yeah, he's shaking his head like you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Heather Has 2 Mummies is a kindergarten book.
Wow.
Our kids are being educated outside of our control. I'm a Christian pastor, Christian teacher. Don't feed my kids garbage that's going to send them straight. You can finish the sentence. I'm mad. And you've got the same problem. And your leaders are smart enough to know it. And brave enough to allow me to stand here. So congratulate them. When you see your leaders, you congratulate them. You tell them that. Okay? Because they really think. Anyway, this guy called me for the kids. I went down. I'm standing up, right? When you're preaching, like right now, I know which ones of you are interested in what I'm saying and which ones aren't. Some of you are really serious and others of you are not. You know why I know? Can I show you? Some of you have your pen like this, and you're writing, and the rest of you are like this. And if you're like this, what does that tell you?
No, I don't know.
You're zoomed right in on what I said. But that little girl over there is just, she doesn't care, right? When you're preaching, when you're talking, you know what you are talking to and who you are talking to and who's alive and who's dead in that congregation. You know why you're all here? I'll make a bet with you. No, wait, you don't bet, do you? You don't gamble. I don't either. Except that was one of my addictions. I had the misfortune of owning a bus company. I had 5 Greyhound buses. One of them went to Atlantic City, New Jersey, every day. Guess who drove it? Guess who left more money in Atlantic City than you made in Atlantic City every day? One day I said, I'm not going to do that again, ever. And for a year, I refused to go to Atlantic City on my own bus. I shook, I sweated, I felt stomach cramps, I had physical withdrawal from a mental gambling addiction. Tell me the mind isn't a powerful thing. And how do we save these kids? All right. I'm watching the audience, and I know I had Omar. Omar just was zoomed in on me. And at the end of the service, I always put it this way. If you want to talk to me, you come up, you shake my hand, you hold on just a little longer than you think you should, and I'll get the message and set up a counseling appointment time for you. Okay? Message ended. Omar gets up. Instead of coming forward, he goes to the back of the room. Down the back, down the side, down the front, behind the curtain. When everybody else is gone, he comes out and he says, can I talk? It was me talk. Actually, he's Spanish. Well, my Spanish is about as good as my Arabic. Okay? I can't even say the word here properly. I have to have him put it out in phonics for me to say it, syllables. But he spoke a little bit of English. And about that time, this one jumped up on the aisle and said, I'll translate for him. And then this one jumped up and said, no, I'll work with you on it. And in 1 minute, I had pornography, homosexual, murderer. And I taught them all how to get a grasp on the problems that they have and actually overcome the problems. Well, that night, after counseling with him, I got him started on the right direction. Okay? And then I said the words that he did not want to hear, the words that were scaring him to death. You've got to go talk to your dad. What have you heard since the moment I started speaking here today? What have you heard? Father is the answer to 90% of the problems. If dad does it right, the kids come out much, much better. If dad doesn't do it right, you got a problem, Mom. And dad does too, but he's going to have to pay the bill. With me, it was 3 DUIs, 2 rolled pickup trucks. I can go on and on. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I was a bit of a rebel. I raised a bit of a rebel. Loved him to death. My only son. But boy, can he get in trouble. He's very expensive. You know, he's a high-maintenance kid. I heard the other day that he's going back to church. He's doing fine. He's coming out. He's got a job. He went to Colorado. Yay, team. He went to Colorado. You know what happens when he's in Houston? What's every other question to me? Can I borrow? Can I borrow? If he's in Colorado, how does he say...
Western Union.
In Colorado, I think I got a bad line here. I really can't hear what the static on this line. Something going, you know. He's on his own. He's doing fine. He'll be fine. You see, I never say he will fail. He will do fine. And eventually, guess what? I will be rewarded for my faith, and he will do fine. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it works. Anyway, he's up here, got to go talk to Dad. He said, okay, I'll do it. I said, I don't understand it, but I'll do it. 10 o'clock that night, my telephone rings. What did you tell my son? Now, I had told him, a number of things that Dad may not have agreed with. And then he said, I have been trying for 2.5 years to reach this boy and give him some help, and he's been shutting me off. Today we're hugging each other, we're crying with each other, we're praying with each other. What did you tell him? Whoa, I get chills just thinking about that. Here's a boy that thought he couldn't talk to Dad. By the way, Dad was the associate pastor, another preacher's kid, who stood up every week and said, pornography is wrong, and if you watch pornography, you're going to. The kid's already addicted. Can you go talk to Dad? Dad just shut the book on himself, didn't he? It's terrible how they do this. But they just have to be trained. We have to know how to do it. Okay, Dad's talking to me. Omar is upstairs in his bedroom with his cell phone. Guess what he's doing? Next slide. He's calling his friends. I had 4 appointments scheduled the next morning. When I got there, I had 17 girls, next slide, and 14 boys. All of whom, every one of those kids in those 2 slides, have been molested, have been beaten, have been abused in some way, shape, or form. The pastor didn't know. The parents didn't know. The teachers didn't know. Omar knew. And Omar said, you can trust this one, because he's been where we are. Why do you think I stand up here and tell you those horrible background stories of myself? Because I like to hear myself talk? Because somebody's got to learn that people have been where you are. They can help you get out of it if they've gotten out of it first. It's a chain. Alcoholics Anonymous was founded by 2 alcoholics, neither one of which had stopped drinking until they got together. And one said, the Bible says this, or the Scripture says that, and if we do this, if we help each other, maybe we can stop. And 2 became 10, and 10 became 20, and 20 became how many? Thousands of people have stopped drinking now because 2 guys who have been there said you could do it. What you hear is what you see, is what you feel, is what you become. I have to tell my story of this garbage pit life I've led so that somebody can get a message and they can listen to me, and I can tell them, you don't have to live in that hell anymore. You don't have to be there. Come on out with me, and I've got 1,000 other guys that'll come out with you. And we know about you, and you're on the internet with us, and we communicate back and forth, and the church doesn't have to know one thing about it. Because I told you my hot button, right? Where do you take the kids when you get them out of the hell? Especially if they've already been branded. Don't let your kid hang around with him. He is a... Right? I'll tell you what he is. He's a crying little boy that wants help, and he wants a hug so bad he can scream to get it. But we label them, and then they believe the label, and when they believe the label, they become what the label is. We've got to reverse that procedure. We've got to accept them and bring them in. Now, if it can't be done openly, we do it with an anonymous organization. And I have an organization set up. And if you give anybody my card, my cell phone number is on it, and I pick it up. And I get calls 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The only reason I'm not getting calls on this one right now is because it's shut off. Which irritates some of my people very much. But I have to teach you what's going on. So, all these kids get together, and I've got 43 new people to help. I have more counseling than I can possibly do. All because Omar listened just once. Now, would you like to know what I taught Omar? How to win? You see, the big problem that we have as Christians and as Muslims, and as, you put a label on it, I don't care, Hindus, Buddhists. The biggest problem we have is we tell people have faith, right? God's going to lead you out of it. Allah will help you out, right? But we don't tell them how to stop the temptation dead in its tracks. In other words, we give them a, God will help you do it, but we don't give them the, here's how God does it. Guess what? If you don't have a shovel to put the dirt in, you can't lift the mound of dirt, can you?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have something practical in your hand to give a kid a break on how to do this. Here it is. Next slide. How shall a young man purify his ways? That's from David. You know the prophet David, right?
Mm-hmm.
How shall a young man cleanse his ways? Next slide. By following what? Your word. Answers in here. Answers in mine. Same books. Same God. Same family tree. Right? We go back far enough, Abraham's back there. True?
Mm-hmm.
And he's still the father of all the faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's faithful in a lot of places we don't give him credit for being. Anyway, it's in here. So, how do you do it? By following the word. Next. Here's one from the Quran. O mankind, there has come to you a good advice from your Lord. And a what?
Healing.
Healing for that what?
Disease of ignorance.
Disease of ignorance, doubt, hypocrisy, and this one is where we are. Can you overcome sexual addiction? And how do you know it? Because it says it right there. Right? How many have seen that before? Some of you have studied it. That's the most interesting thing that I have found. Desires in your breasts. Oh, that's definitely talking about what we're talking about, right? A guidance and a mercy for who?
Believers.
Oh, do you believe?
Yeah.
You do. Do those boys believe they can change? They've been taught in public school, you cannot change. What do they believe?
They cannot.
They cannot.
Yeah.
So what happens? They don't. If you get the belief, then you get the victory. Next. We send down from the Quran that which is a healing and a mercy to those that
Believe.
Where does it all start?
Believe.
You've got to have a belief. All right. That's where I start with these kids. They come to me and I say, listen, you believe you can change? No. Then you can't. But if I can teach you and you gain a belief, do you think you can change? And they said, yes. By the way, yeah, questions. Any questions that are here? We're going to spend time later this afternoon answering questions. And again, I will answer any question on any subject that I have knowledge of.
How can a single mother can balance the mother and the father part?
How can a single mother balance? Okay, that is a beautiful question. Let me say this. If every father in the mosque is not the father of every son in the mosque, you're losing out. If dad isn't there, dad better step up from somewhere else. You find one. And I'm looking at a whole bunch of very fine fathers right here. I'll bet you $1. A boy comes to you and he's got a problem. What are you going to do? Beat him?
No.
You need if you have a son and you need a father, there's one here that'll help. That's what we have to do as a family, right? The boy I told you about earlier today, didn't have a father to help him along. But he had an uncle, right?
But what about if they are not educated, or they don't have some saying that?
Then let's get them educated. Let's talk this up. You see, the reason the gay world is succeeding today is they are educating. They have a propaganda machine equal to the best in the world, and we're going to give you a sheet of paper later to prove that. Okay? They have a plan. In fact, I'll put it up here on the screen a little later. We'll go through it. It's a plan that goes step A, step B, step C, step D, and it was developed and written in 1980. But it was based on another plan that was written in 1940. That was based on another plan written by a guy named Adolf. You finish it. Okay? Propaganda. You tell a lie long enough, what happens?
They start believing.
People believe it. Now they've told it long enough, loud enough, and long enough that everybody says, oh, they must be
normal.
right. But we have Allah. We have a God in heaven that's going to say one of these days, enough. And you need your kids there, right? So we got to find it. If you can't find it, call somebody and find it. How do you think I got here? Did I go searching for the mosque? I had a purpose. You have a purpose. You find somebody to father that child properly, to educate him. You see, I never had a dad like that. In my life, I never remember sitting on my father's lap. Ever. I never remember the hug. So I had to find it, didn't I? And God led me to where I could find it. When these boys come to me, they have found a place. But I have to be careful. You see, I was from that background. What happens if I come out and hug one of your boys? There's some gossip in the church corner is going to say, oh, good night. Right? So you need the good, solid men of the church to take over the responsibility. And if they don't do it, you wives, you have control more than you. No, you already know how much control you have, right? Start exerting it on these guys. You don't want wimps, you want men. You want men that will take care of you and take care of your children. And that includes the emotional aspect of it. Right? Gotta have it, or you lose it. Next. I ask you for a rescue. Okay? That's the question you just asked, isn't it? You just asked for rescue. I don't know what the story is, but I'll bet there's a story back there. Every one of you that's in this room is here for a reason. You know somebody, have met somebody, or are related to somebody that needs what we have. Every one of them. Either it's anger, pornography, abuse, addiction, gay. Somebody is here for a reason, and the reason you're here is because you love that somebody. And if I don't give you an answer that can be practical, I've failed. Next. Set right all my affairs, and do not place me in charge of my soul for the blinking of an eye. Wow. How much power do I really have? How much power does Allah have? I place myself in His hand, right? Don't let me have control of this. God, take care of it. Bring the right man. Do the right path. Set him on the right way. Make it happen. And He will. Next. And whosoever is conscious of Allah and keeps his duty to Him, He will make a way for him to get out of every difficulty. Now, are we going to succeed with our children? How do we know?
Faith, believe.
What does it say? You see, either that book is true or it's not. Either God is real or He's not. I choose to believe that He is. What do you choose?
He is.
He is.
He is.
Therefore, what's going to happen? They're going to get those kids out of this problem. And luckily, God has the way to do it. It's His plan. And somebody asked me the question, what happens if they don't want to come out? You know, Allah can make people really miserable if He feels like it. That person can go through a time of, and he's going to say, oh, if only I could get out of this. And that's the moment you have to be right there. You see, I believe in a God that does that for His children, for His people, for His beloved servants. He will get you out of every difficulty if you just let Him and follow His way. Next. He will provide from Him sources He never could imagine, and whosoever puts his trust in Allah, then He will help him. Suffice, help, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but you know what I like about that particular one? He will provide him sources he never could imagine. How many of you ever imagined you would be standing in front of a Christian pastor doing psychological work, taking such education in a mosque? Isn't that a bit far-fetched? Like, that ain't never going to happen. But here I am. Sources you never could imagine. And you know why He uses sources you never could imagine? Because you can't imagine the life I came from. And how much power it took to get me out of it. And now He's brought us in contact with each other. And that contact, that power, that ability, that story that I have is going to be passed on and touch other people, and they're going to come out of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but this is fantastic. How powerful is your God that He says, I'm going to use sources you can't even think about. And I end up being one of those sources. This has never been done, as far as I can figure out, in the history of either denominational groups. You're part of history. And all I say is, God, thank you, and I don't understand why, but thank you. Right? Just thank you for that. Just praise God it happened. I don't go from there, right? Next. Whosoever is conscious of Allah and keeps his duty to Him, He will make his matter what?
Easy.
Oh. How hard is it to get out of this lifestyle? Oh, it's easy. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm born this way. I didn't choose to be this. I did not choose to be a pornography addict. I just stumbled across it and kept looking and now I'm stuck. And what do you mean it's easy to quit? Did you know that pornography is a chemical addiction? You didn't know that. It's called adrenaline.
Oh, yeah.
You see it the first time, what happens as a man? We don't have to tell the ladies, they've figured it out already. Okay? The next time you look at another picture of a lady, what happens to you again? That's chemical, isn't it? Addiction is chemical. How do you beat the chemicals? I'm going to show you in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay? But it's going to be easy. The only time I ever overcame a temptation, it was so easy that I almost cried when I believed what it was. Because I had been fighting so hard for so long that I just could not even fathom ever being able to come out of this stuff. Right? But all I had to do was one thing. And it became so easy, it was amazing to me. Next. Your Lord knows you best. If He will have mercy on you. And will He have mercy on you? Did He put you in this room?
Mm-hmm.
He's already had mercy on you. So what's the end of the story? You see, I've read the end of the book. I know that at the end of the book there's a place called paradise. Right? And I believe that. And the devil, Satan, however you pronounce it, is going to get his just. Right? His reward will come to him. But you're going to be okay. And your children are going to be okay because God says it's going to be okay. And I'm going to have mercy on you. Next. Certainly. He knows your condition. He knows the day when you will be what? Brought back to Him. So if you fail, what does Allah know? The day that you're coming home. Does that mean that you're coming home? Read the sentence. Does that mean that it's actually going to happen? If He knows the day it's going to happen, is it going to happen?
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. How powerful is this? That came right out of there, right? I can share the same thing over there in mine. Same God. Same power. He that began a good work in you will finish it. He's going to bring you back, right? Finish it. Keep going. He knows you well when He created you from the earth. And when you were what? How much does God know about you? How much did God know about me? Did He know that I was going to have a hard time in life? Could He have stopped it? Think about that. Maybe He could. But maybe He saw something better. Maybe He saw a mind behind what was happening that had the ability to stand up here and say, I don't care, throw rocks. Tell me I'm crazy, but I've done it. Every time the gay world stands up in front of me and says, I was born that way, I can't change, and I look at them and I say, hey, I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. In fact, I helped build a factory. And all they can say is, I can't refute that. If that's what happened to you, I can't. But I wasn't that way. They're stubborn little beasties. You know that? They really are. Kids are stubborn. Take after their parents, don't they? Next. March forth in a way which leads to forgiveness from your Lord. Paradise as wide as are the heavens and the earth prepared for you. Isn't that beautiful? So pick up the rock and walk forward. Take the flag. Say, we're going to do this for our kids. And you start telling every parent around here that there's an answer to the problem. And I'll come down here once a week and hold classes every week for every parent and every kid that you can bring to me, because that's what I do. And if I can't do it, I've got friends that can. And we believe in one thing, and that is our kids are not going to be put through this foolishness much longer. We're going to stand up and say something about it. But the world, the devil, is going to stand up and say something about it too. And, well, the louder he yells, the harder it is, but the battle belongs to who? When your prophet was at war, they said he would never win, didn't they? He went out on a battle that they claimed he could never, too many Christians, too many this, too many that, all against him. And what happened? Who won? Does it matter how many are against you? As long as God's on your side? You see, with God on your side, you're bigger than they are. And this issue, these things that we're fighting against, we can win. But we have to realize what the enemy's like. You have to know what you're up against, what you're facing, who you're facing, how the belief is inside of these kids, why they don't want to change. They don't want to change because they've been educated they couldn't. End of story. Next. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for good and not for evil, to give you what? An expected end. This is the prophet Jeremiah. I don't know how you say it, but you know who I'm talking about, right? He says, I know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not for evil. To give you an expected, what's an expected end?
Paradise? Paradise?
Oh, you're going to make it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is that why you smile all the time? Did you ever see some of these people that go to mosque or church and they don't believe that they're actually going to make it? I mean, they look like they're going to a funeral, right? You ever see the ones that really know that God is powerful? What do they look like? You can tell just by looking who's in and who's out, right? The expected end. I have an expected end. You know why it's expected? God said I was going to get there. So I expect it. And when I expect it, what happens? I get it. Next. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. Now this is from the Gospels in the New Testament of the Christian Bible. It's a fellow named James, one of the people that walked around with Jesus all the time, considered a prophet. And he said, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. What's wrong with that? Count it joy when you fall. Hello? Does that make sense? Oh, it does. It didn't to me for a long time. But then I got to thinking about it. If I fall, why is it joy? Let's go to the next verse. But thou art holy. This is David again. O thou that inhabits the praises of his people. Israel. You use the same verse, same people, right? Different brother. God does something though. What's the principle here? God inhabits what? Praise. Right? What's inhabit mean?
To live
inside. If you're praising God, where do you get your power? If you're praising the devil, where do you get your power?
Devil.
From the devil. But God inhabits the praises of, another verse says, his people. Okay? It's a principle. Praise is the victory. Now, go back to that.
This is the...
My brethren, count it all joy. What is joy?
Yes.
It's a feeling. Temptation feeling.
Feeling good, happiness.
Happiness.
Happy, yes.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Allah. You've pulled me out of this bottomless pit, right? You're in charge of everything. I've got an expected end. You said I'm going to win, I'm going to win. If you start talking that way, can the devil stay around to tempt you?
No.
Can the devil and God be in the same place at the same time? No. So he says, start shouting for joy, praising Allah, when you have what?
Temptation.
Temptations. What happens to the temptation when you're praising God? It goes away. There's the shovel. There's the answer. How many people do I know that comes in, and this is Christian, I'm sure Muslims don't do this. Oh God, please help me. I'm having this terrible time. Please help me. Is that a beggar? Or is that somebody that knows they've got a God that's alive? I never say, God help me. I say, God, thank you for having figured this out and giving me the end already. Here comes the fun part. All right? I got to walk a little bit, so I'll be out of the picture, but you see that circle? Figure there's a temptation. I'm out of the books now, okay? Put the Bibles aside, put the Quran aside. Human brain. In the human brain, every thought you ever had is still there, right? For instance, I like ice cream. What kind?
Chocolate.
Huh?
Chocolate.
You finished my sentence, didn't you? Because you like.
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
There's Baskin Robbins. Next
Let's go.
stop. Huh?
Let's go.
Let's go. Simple thing. Every thought is a temptation or a piece of a puzzle. Next slide. So, if you take 3 thoughts, you now have 3 cells. Right? I like ice cream, chocolate ice cream, Baskin Robbins. Number 4 is going to be where are the car keys. Right? Did you know that these 3 thoughts are connected physiologically, physical, actual happen, by what's called a synaptic connection? Did you heard that before? Some of you studied, right? Synaptic connection. That's what keeps this thought snapping electrically to the next thought. I like ice cream, chocolate, Baskin Robbins, car keys. That's an electric current. You can measure that. They put electrodes on your head. They can tell you what you're thinking when you're thinking, right? In the middle of the synaptic connection, there is a liquid. The liquid is called acetylcholine. It is the conductor. What's a conductor?
Carries. Carries from one thing.
It's the one that carries the current between the two, right? So you've got a connection with a conductor in it, and you can move these thoughts, right? So how do you overcome a temptation of any kind?
Cut it off.
Huh?
Cut it off.
Oh, you cut it off. How do you do that?
It's how to control yourself, your mind.
How do you do it?
How?
Yeah, huh?
By presenting God.
I'm going to give you a trick.
Another thought.
Huh?
You need another thought.
Oh, you need another...
Change
All
the
right.
topic.
Next slide. If you can change the focus of what you are thinking about for 60 seconds, the acetylcholine vanishes, and you never have the next thought. Okay? So, you're up here. I like ice cream. Suddenly you begin to say, thank you, God. I'm diabetic. I know I shouldn't have it, and I know you've got good health for me, and I know Mama's got dinner already for me, and I want to thank you and praise you that she's such a wonderful cook, and I love her, and she loves me, and now you're down on this path, right? You never get to the next one because that's vanished. Okay, how many of you have children? All right. Age range, all ranges, teenagers? I pity you. Right? Boys, girls?
Boys.
Hmm? Boys?
Girls. Boys.
Girl. Okay, you got a girl, you got a boy.
Yeah.
Do those two know each other? Good. Because you know what's going to happen, don't you? You know, thou shalt not look at a girl. The first thing you tell a kid, thou shalt not, guess what he does? He does what he shall not.
Yes.
Don't eat the chocolate chip cookies and leave the room. What happens to the cookies?
Gone.
Potato chips.
Gone.
Right? Gone, right?
Yeah.
What's the name of the chemical?
Acetylcholine.
Okay. Did you have to think about it? I just focused you away for 60 seconds, and guess what happened? I killed the whole conversation we were having up there. It works every single time. In every single temptation.
Has to be 60 seconds though?
60 seconds, or less.
Or less.
Maybe more. Some of us are stubborn.
But I'm talking about, it has to be a minute. That's what you're talking
It should
about.
be.
It should be a minute, because if it's less than a minute, you still can do it.
Well, let's see. Mohammed, or
That's why
you told me last night. What was that prayer you told me about?
That's why last night, in according to our religion, Islam, when you get angry and you are yelling at somebody, we are told by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sit down. And science say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By the 10th, your anger is managed. If you're sitting down and you're yelling at somebody, lay down. If water is available, you sit down, drink water. That's what we relate. Now they are proving it. And we've been told 1400 years back. And now they are proving it scientifically.
Now, if the God that was behind the writing of the books wrote in the books such a simple thing as praise me when you enter temptation, and the human brain, when you start praising God, gets off of whatever subject it's on, does that verify that God created the book and the people behind it?
Yes.
Have you ever seen this before in your life? Did you ever hear this? How do you tell a kid to overcome a temptation? Change your thinking for 60 seconds. And make it praise. Because the devil cannot be where God is, and God inhabits what?
Praise.
Praise.
That is being praised.
Now I've given you a physical tool, not theological, but a real tool to overcome a given temptation at a given time, and the more you do it, the bigger the habit becomes, and before long it's automatic, and when a temptation comes along, you just automatically begin praising God. Hey, God, look. All right, let me follow this through. Devil has a temptation, okay? He brings it up in front of you. Now, you can put this in either mind. Either she or he is extremely good looking, but you are married. But boy, is that a temptation. And don't tell me you don't look, because I'm blind. No, I'm old. I'm not blind. Right? I see what I see. Start praising God for the temptation. Yes, I see that. God, you created a real nice looking one there. Right? But thank you, I've got a beautiful wife at home. Thank you, you've taken care of me. And I don't need to eat hamburger when I've got steak at home. Right? I don't need the inferior. I don't need the vision. I want the real thing. And I've got that because that's what you said. Man and woman should be one. Right? And the temptations are taken care of. But now you got these little puppy guys that are not married yet. What do?
They are looking everywhere.
Huh?
They are looking everywhere.
Oh, they're looking everywhere is right. But you know what? If they start looking at the Bible, they can live up to the purity of the Bible. It's as simple as that. And God will make a way for them to escape. There are ways. We used to call it a cold shower. I don't know about you guys, but, you know. Change your pattern. Do something, and it just vanishes away. It is completely powerful. And it is physiological and scriptural. And they mesh just like that. So now it's more than just have faith. It's here's how to do it. And if we can't teach that to our kids when they're this old and this old and this old, I'll be surprised. You can get them in the habit. Now kids are still kids and they're going to fail. And when they fail, what do?
Be supportive and help them to stand up again.
You say be supportive or beat the butt?
Supportive.
Huh?
No beating.
No beating. Oh. Spare the rod, spoil the child. That's an old scripture, right?
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah, but you know what it meant by spare the rod? In the Torah, the old book, it says if you are going to beat them with a shoelace. In other words, have mercy.
Mercy, kind.
Make it right. These kids will learn to love you. And they'll begin to trust you. And the big part comes when, as happened with Omar, my little guy, back there. Next time I went to South America, actually it was on the same trip. At night we go out and we take food and we go down into the areas of the city where nobody goes unless they want to buy something. Okay, you got my drift?
Mm-hmm.
We load the pickup truck with soda and sandwiches. And we go down and we pass them out. Are you hungry? Are you cold? Do you need help? Are you sick? Would you like a blanket? And I have some pictures on here that will shock you to death if I showed them to you. I'm debating showing them to you. I've got a couple pictures here of these guys who no longer act that way, work that way. They're in school today, they're in college today, they're going to seminary to become teachers and pastors and preachers. God can change anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the background. The trouble is, we get the label. And once we get the label, it's awfully hard to outlive it. 50 years later, somebody's going to say, oh, he's that person that was this and this and this, right? That's been 50 years. Not that same person at all. Next. So glorify what? Okay. That's right from the Quran. Glorify the praises. In other words, shout for joy. Praise Allah. Get your mind off the subject for 60 seconds, which for some boys is a long time. They can't sit still that long. Yes?
Well, and the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad taught us something that if we have a temptation also, we can say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, which is in English translated, I seek refuge from Allah.
Okay.
You.
All right, so you've got a mechanism too. The thing is, the principle works.
Yes.
And it works how often?
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
It's a law of physiology. So you ever have to fail a temptation? If you fail, it's because you're not doing
Correctly.
correctly what's there. Next. When you says, I am near to you, right? I respond to you when you call on me. How near is Allah to these people that have temptations?
Very close.
Very close.
Very close.
My book says, at hand.
Yes. Yes.
Your book says, near. Same thing.
Same thing, very close.
Next. Next verse says, be careful for nothing. This is a scripture from Philippians. Don't worry about what? Huh? But I don't have enough money. God says, I'm the
Provider.
provider. I often say, God, if you've got a cattle on 1,000 hills, which is the text of scripture, you might want to slaughter one for me today. But you know, I really haven't melted away to anything yet, right? Do I look like I'm having a hard life?
No.